Today, I have my friend, yes, my friend Kara, who I actually had the pleasure of meeting last week in Missouri. Kara, welcome to the sunny side of freedom.
Hey, thanks. How you doing?
I'm doing good, my friend. Thank you so much for taking the time. As you know, Sunny interviews our veterans here on the podcast, getting your stories out because they're so important to get out there. And I'm always super excited when I get a female. Not too many out there say, Sunny, let me come on your podcast and let's do an interview. So I'm just super grateful. Thank you for taking the time to do that and to share your own experience. So today I wanted to kind of kick it off a little bit. And we're going to kick it off with your Navy experience, military experience.
Oh yeah. Well, when I joined the Navy, I really wanted to join the Army, but that didn't happen. And then I got a phone call one morning that asked if I was still interested in joining the Navy. Because my dad was Navy,
Hmm.
and I'm like, sure. And it's like, well, the catch is you have to leave the day. So I said yes and never looked back. I came from a small town, which one of those stuck towns where nobody ever leaves town and
Hmm.
never really does anything. So, but I joined the Navy. I was going to be a boiler technician. That didn't really go too well. I was able to change my rate to a radioman, and so I did that. My first duty station was Norfolk, Virginia. I was on a subtender at the time. Women were not allowed on anything but tenders,
Wow.
and so I did that and did my first 4 years. It was an eye opening being somewhere you grow up in a small town and really never having that freedom. I think I was a little went buck wild with all the freedom, and it's like, well, I'm my own person. I don't have to answer to anyone except for the military. But it was an eye opening experience. It showed me a lot of uh, self confidence I didn't have before. That it showed me that, hey, as long as I put my mind to it, I'm capable of doing anything.
Hmm.
It was difficult at time because I mean being hard headed too. It's like I was trying to still learn the military way, so I didn't get into a lot of awful lot of trouble. But it was like, why are you doing that, or whatever. But uh, I made a lot of friends. A lot of experiences that I still look back on today. I'm still friends with some of the friends that I made on my first shift, actually the military is really a close knit family, and it's like a small little world because you eventually, you might be a few years separated, and all of a sudden you see each other again, or there's a circumstance where somebody might have known somebody you were stationed with or whatever. But I enjoyed it. I had to get out because of Clinton downsizing. So that was about a year and a half. Had an opportunity I went to the reserves.
Hmm.
Had an opportunity to come back in. That's when I um, re-entered the military. Met my husband in the process of waiting for orders. We knew each other 2 weeks and ended up getting married. And then my duty station was Naples, Italy. I was with the
Wow.
ComSub Group 8 unit there, and loved Italy. We were there for 3.5 years, 4 years. Then went to San Diego, um, and finished out my time there. Uh, I was actually I was with a command called Beachmasters, and I made one deployment, and that's when the USS Cole was bombed. And our ship that where we were on was a ship that went and picked up all the, well, not all of them, but a good portion of the sailors to take them to Bahrain
Okay.
to go back to Norfolk. But those experiences there, I mean, were you know eye opening. Knowing that just a spur of the moment, not just staying somewhere for a minute, save their lives. It's just hearing the
Hmm.
stories. Um, I look back and I would do it all again if I could. And and knowing that right now the changes that for women in the military, and it's kind of disheartening to see what's going on right now. But like so far how women have come since '89. and now,
Yeah.
being in the military and what we're capable of or being allowed to do. So,
It's pretty amazing. I want to say thank you for your service.
well, thank you for your
Um,
support.
absolutely. Wow, a small little town, and here you go off into the military. That had to be like scary
Oh yeah.
and exciting. I think you were feeling everything at that time in your life,
Oh yeah.
and you took so much away from that experience, your military experience. Can you tell me a little bit about from the time that you kind of came back into the civilian life, and what you're doing, your mission now?
So when I got out, we ended up going to Gulfport, Mississippi, because John's a CD. So that's where his duty station was. And getting out, and I was able to, because I wanted to stay in the military, truthfully, but
Hmm.
being dual military is not a good fit. So, there's a lot of stressors of who's going to take care of because like when I went on my deployment, we sent my daughter home between
Hmm.
her grandparents. They spent time with each other. And that way he didn't have to worry about whether or not he had duty or whatever. So, um, very good. All right. So I'll get back with it. Sorry. So it was easier to let her go spend time with them, and that way, um, that was taken care of. But being in Gulfport, I went to the reserves, so I was able to do that. And then I got pregnant with my other two, and just um, being a stay-at-home mom while he's on deployment. It was rough, but it was doable. It gives you a new perspective on, hey, you know what being a single parent is, because a lot of times you get that feel of what it is, to be a single parent and not having a
Yeah.
lot of support because they're across, other side of the world. So, but
Wow.
then he got out and we ended up coming to Missouri. It wasn't too long after we got to Missouri. My son, my youngest one, was having some learning disability issues, and in order to having something done to get a diagnosis for him, we had to uh, get a medical diagnosis to help him with his IEP. In the process, we found out he had brain tumors, and we had been doing chemo off and on for like 5 years. And then this last time, we said enough is enough. We Missouri didn't have a medical cannabis program at the time, so we ended up going to Colorado to get medical therapy for him. And then John, at the same time, was having issues with PTSD and all this, and we didn't really understand what was going on with him at the time because he wasn't willing to, or not willing, but not uh, taking care of himself like he should. Um, and then we started thinking, well, if you're going to use cannabinoid therapies on our son, why not you try it and see how it helps you? And ended up, he started it and helped with his PTSD. And this is how we got into the hemp world with, um, everything that we're doing. It was the first time using cannabinoid therapies that we saw his brain tumor shrink. And so that was even more, I was like, hey, we need to make a mission to help people because this plant is so amazingly has so much benefits to it that we need to be able to help other people. So
Hmm.
one of our missions that we have with we have an organization called A Thousand Ripples, where we give free cannabinoid therapies to active cancer patients and veterans because it's just something that people should not have to pay for, especially when they have all this
Hmm.
other stuff they're worrying about, just trying to stay alive. Other bills are piling up, and it's like the least we could do is offer something that can potentially help with their recovery. It's not going to cure them, but we can sure as heck try to help them have a more palatable life. Or it helps them. So
So let me ask you a question. How has that been received in the medical industry? A thousand ripples, and your wanting to support those cancer patients that are looking for alternative methods.
Well, right now, I don't think the medical industry really knows about us. We just put it out there. Hey, if you're, if you know a cancer patient, and if they're willing to, we always encourage them to ask their doctors. In there, we
Hmm.
give them, you know, the syringes, and we give them a COA that shows their doctors everything that's in that particular syringe. Um, and the doctors are like, well, they allow them to do it. So I guess
Right.
their doctors are like, no, don't touch it. But they're willing to, if the patient wants to try it, they're willing to
Hmm.
allow them to do that. But we we just like I said, we encourage them to talk to their doctors first. But we let them know as long
Absolutely.
as their doctors are okay with it, we can give them. Um, it's like RSO, basically what we give them. And so,
And for anyone watching this today here on our YouTube channel, and whether it be yourself or somebody else that you know of that this might be able to help them, where can they find you? Where can they contact you?
they can contact us through a thousand ripples, or a thousand ripples, or go to our slap happy um, dot com, and it'll
Okay.
come up with uh, a section in there that shows them where a thousand ripples is, or
Hmm.
they can just directly text me or message me if they want to.
Okay. And again, friends, that's 1000ripples.com slap happy hemporium company. Is
Uh,
it dot com?
they can slaphappybeverage.com. You can do that also. We're like under
Slap
abbreviate
happy village
beverage, beverage. Yeah.
beverage.com.
Mhm.
Okay. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave Sunny a comment. I'll be sure to get in touch
Yeah.
with Kara and John over at Slap Happy and get you any information that
Yeah.
I can on my end. I think
Uh,
it's remarkable that even during a very difficult time that both you and John were going through as you were starting your lives off
mhm.
there in Missouri, and how frightening it must have been to have a child who you had gone several rounds of chemo with and felt like there was no hope,
Yeah.
but then you found hope. You created it. You created hope for the situation. And how is your son doing today?
He's doing really good. Charles, his name is Charles. He's 22. Because of their brain tumors and stuff, he's legally blind. He does have some mild cognitive delays, which prevents him from, he has to have some type of supervision, making sure that he's making the right decisions and stuff
Hmm.
for him. Right now, as we speak, he's in Arkansas for the World Services for the Blind. And I don't know if just a little thing that anyone that's visually impaired or is newly visually impaired due to an accident or health issues, this school teaches you how to live independently being visually impaired, and they also offer
Okay.
other skills and stuff to help him as an adult life, and in his adult life. His mission is to have a dog treat business. So when he comes
A
back,
dog treat
yeah,
business.
so he wants to do that, and once he comes back, um, because we have a facility here to help him, start the process of doing that. So
I
yeah.
think that's amazing. I do want to ask you the magic question, though. And the magic question is for our viewers, I'm sure they're wondering as well, what type of feedback you received from the medical professional world when he started the cannabinoid treatments and you saw the results. What kind of feedback you received from his doctors?
Well, his doctors and stuff, they were like, well, they couldn't. They at the time they were like, we can't really tell you that you can do it, but they were supportive in doing it. They were basically his
Okay.
docs like, this is what are you doing, and keep it up. And his his oncologist was like really, and we encouraged him to hopefully start studies within the childhood oncology studies and say, hey, start. you know, whoever your patients are, and if you know they're using cannabinoid therapy, start using them as
Hmm.
your guinea pigs and say, hey, this is working. You know, certain cancers
Hmm.
are very receptive to, cannabinoid therapies, and so, but
Hmm.
they were supportive. Although while they couldn't let us, they couldn't prescribe it, but they were supportive, knowing that we were doing it in conjunction with his chemo.
Yeah, I'm super proud of you. And for our viewers today, here you have two women, two females. We're going to touch base on this a little bit. Two females and both on separate missions, but here we are together, getting it out there to all of you. Most of you know me as Sunnyside of Freedom, uniting veterans across the nation as a veteran advocate. You never really know where your calling is or what your mission's going to be in life. I just had a conversation, Kara, and I mentioned this to you earlier, with my daughter this week. And at the age of 17, and the topic was follow your calling, whatever that calling is, and you never realize where you're going to end up. And to see what it is you're doing, following your own calling, your mission that came from a very personal
Mhm.
experience, touching home. And then here you are. You could have ended it there. Instead, both you and your husband use that, and now you're helping others. And that's remarkable. So thank you.
Oh, I didn't know, and I still question what my purpose and cause is. But when we have a store here in Rosebud, this Sock Happy Emporium, and the people that come in our store, and just by talking to them, we say, oh, there was a couple of people that came in, and just talking to them, I found that they had cancer. And this one lady comes into our store and said, God kind of pushed her and said, you need to go in that, check that store out. And she comes in, she looks around, and she starts talking about, what she needed help to sleep. And then she mentioned she had cancer. I was like, well, I know why now that God told you to come here, because we offer free cannabinoid therapies to active cancer patients. And she's like, and they're astonished, because the stuff that we give them, if they went to a dispensary, it would cost them hundreds of dollars, and we're
Yeah.
giving it to them for free. We're giving, a vial will cost them a couple $100, and we're giving 3 or 4 vials of it to them for free. And they're like, can we do anything? It's like, no, just go get well, focus on your
Yeah.
recovery. And so, I mean, I think God puts us in situations and nudges us to do, but we're not really like, well, what are we doing this for? And then stuff like that happens, and you realize, well, that's why I'm doing
Very good. And for our friends watching today, if you hear all that sizzling in the background, they're having a downpour in Missouri today. Kara is at the Slap Happy Hemp Company. So if you're in Missouri, Rosebud, Missouri, go see them, go say hello to them. Sunny and Chief were actually there last weekend. It was an amazing visit with our friends, John and Kara. It's a beautiful little shop. They have hemp clothing and topicals and all kinds of things. And it's just a really nice visit, a nice place to go have a cup of coffee.
it.
And they're so wonderful at answering lots and lots of questions. If you're new to the hemp world, wanting to know more about the medicinal properties, so many of us are honestly, including myself, guys. For many years, I heard of hemp clothing, didn't know much about it. Hemp seeds, I bought them at Costco, sprinkle it on your salads. But there's such a world out there that we don't know enough about.
Right.
And, as far as our pharmaceutical world, our medical world, I'm just going to blurb this in there. This is not medical advice. Please, make your own informed decisions, do your research, take the time, invest the time, you're
Right.
worth it. And also speak to your providers, but also recognize that you are in charge at the forefront of your own care plan. Make good decisions for yourself,
Yeah.
but also know that it's not one way is the only way. There are many alternatives to healing, and it's important that we start exploring those alternatives. What works for some may not work for others. However, those options are out there for you. And our friends, Kara and John, that's why I wanted to so badly, not just because you are a female veteran, get you on my podcast, but because you're also doing all of this. And I think it's pretty remarkable what you're both doing there and helping cancer patients recognize that, maybe, just maybe. And we hang on to hope, especially with diagnoses such as cancer, which is so terminal for so many that I included, be like, sign me up.
Mhm.
We want to live. At the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. We want to live. And there are other, and again, there's going to be other things you have to look into, such as diet and
Oh,
exercise and things of that nature.
but
It's not a quick fix.
but it is really important that if you are using chemotherapies to tell your doctor, because there are certain cancers, hormonal breast cancer is one that you want to be careful and make sure your doctor knows that you are, because cannabis can be negatively and impact, but always talk to your doctor first.
Yeah, most certainly. You can't go into something blindly. You have to be aware of what it is you're
Right.
putting into your body at all times. And your body will tell you, listen, just like purpose, guys. How do we find our purpose? This is a conversation that Sunny has on our Veteran
Mhm.
Lives on Fridays. We have these topics of how do we find our purpose again? And I wanted to kind of bring back that conversation because, Kara, I know that you had your purpose while serving and you knew what you were doing day in, day out, that structured, disciplined
Mhm.
life. And then you come back into the civilian world and you have all these things going on. You have children, you're a stay-at-home mom, you're trying to integrate into this new life of yours.
Mhm.
And you had your husband who's deployed, and here you are trying to navigate. And what advice would you give another female veteran?
Um, just go for it. Just listen to what your heart tells you. Don't just be passive about it. You have to really go out there and work and fight for what you want. And a lot of times it's easier for some. I'm a shy, sometimes insecure, but you have to find that thing that helps you say, "Hey, I got this," and have build that confidence within yourself that knows that, hey, I can do anything I set my mind to, even if you're always going to have these obstacles. They're going to be there, and know that um, you're going to be your own advocate. You're going to be your own
Mhm.
um, person that says, "Hey, there will be those naysayers, and you have to just tune them out." My mother was a big naysayer in everything that I did, and I had to just um, kind of remove myself from her, and know that, hey, there's little tiny voices in the, it's just like whispering that little devil on your shoulder,
Yeah.
and just tune that out. Know that, you know, set yourself up with the right support, and know that you got this whenever you put your mind to it.
Most certainly. It's almost like unlearning what you've always learned. You and I talked a little bit about this. And if you've been following Sunny, you've probably heard me say this. Uniting veterans across the nation, one would think, like, bravo to you, Sunny. Great job. That's such an amazing thing you're doing for our veterans. Not because I need the accolades, but just because I'm serving. And I'm serving in the way that's been called to my heart, which is to help our and support our veteran community. And you'd be like, you take a step back and say, "Wow, I received quite a bit of negative. Like, what do
Mm-hmm.
you mean you're doing that? What do you mean you're taking them camping? What do you? It wasn't supportive. Rather, it was those voices we hear,
Right.
and I had to tune them out." Follow my instincts, my own personal calling, not the calling
Mm-hmm.
that someone else put in store for me. But again, going back to the driver's side, you're in the driver's seat of your life,
Oh yeah.
and it's unlearning those specific behaviors or train of thought and saying, no, I got this, finding that balance with self and going full steam ahead. And you're so right. There's going to be those obstacles that we talk about. Life
Yeah.
is intended to challenge us pretty daily at
Yeah.
some capacity, whether it's traffic, whatever it is, the coffee didn't come out right. We're definitely always challenged. And that's what helps us grow. That's the mindset that you often hear me talk about. I refuse to stay in that negative mindset because negativity doesn't allow you to grow as an individual. You won't
Oh yeah.
evolve into much more than what you are doing, which is that negative Nelly mentality, the woe me, poor
Mhm.
me, this is my life, this happened to me. I'd rather sit here today and say, okay, I'm moving forward. It's a new
Yeah.
chapter. Be the author of your story. And you, my friend, definitely are the author of your story. You've written several chapters already. Look at you.
Yeah, it can be daunting at times, and talking about the full steam ahead. Sometimes taking those side roads will lead you to better opportunities. You always have to stay focused and know that life's ever changing, and if you
Yeah,
just assume that it's going to stay the same, then that's boring. Those little experiences, whether they be positive or negative, ends up building, you know, stronger uh, you in the sense. So,
absolutely. And be your own advocate. I know you and I touched base on this. What does that look like for you? Being your own advocate is truly believing in who you are and where you want to
mhm,
go, and silencing out the noise and the
mhm,
chaos and the judgment. And,
mhm.
I've learned quite a bit just from you and John and what it is that you're doing there at the hemp company in Missouri. And I think it's pretty amazing. It's a very warm and inviting location, guys. If you like those mom and pops, I hate to say it that way because you guys aren't old, but if it's like that feel of you're with family when you walk in,
Yeah,
it's not a commercialized shop.
yeah,
Rather, come and sit with us and have a cup of coffee. What questions do you have? And I want to also shout out and say really quickly that if you're in pain, I'm going to tell you, and you believe in the plant powered topicals, that you're going to notice very changeable effects in your body. This stuff is amazing. It's called Shield Maiden, and they have it there in their shop. And our friendship has most definitely grown as affiliates of Hemp Company. And both myself and 420 Chief, who's also known here on our YouTube channel, we have also, with your help and John's help, you guys have been amazing in helping us secure our own. So you have the Sunny Side of Freedom, Sunny Side Soothing Salve, and we have the Chief's Calm Bomb for those arthritic knees, the
oh
snap,
yeah,
crackle, and pops after 40. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to myself or even Kira. Pretty amazing what you're doing there. You're offering many methods of healing, which is always a plus, especially when we're our own voice and
oh yeah,
advocates for our health. Um, and, I know that you and I said, too often when life throws you lemons, what do you do with it? Do you throw them back or do you make lemonade? I mean, sometimes we want to throw them back. I'm not going to lie. I
yeah,
want to throw them right back. But, it's during those difficult moments that we find our true self.
oh yeah. It's I found that with going through the stuff with Charles and going through this industry, this hemp industry, because it's not easy. If you're going to get into hemp, and especially depending on what state you're in, you're going to fight for your livelihood, and we continually fight. And it's like that's the thing. Being in the military, you learn to fight, and it's like you just can't lay down and let the government, do whatever they want. You have to let them know and have a voice, because we've just seen so many changes over the past couple of years, and that we're here to stay. They're not going to. The hemp world is so much more than just the medicinal. That one plant, it can provide clothing, it can provide shelter, it can provide food for not only for us, but for your chickens and stuff like that. So just
Mhm.
that one plant, it's like it's a wonderful plant, and it doesn't get enough recognition.
It doesn't get enough recognition because I don't think we know enough about it.
Yeah.
And for your viewers, when you're looking to gain support from your average person out here, what would you say is your greatest challenge right now in keeping the hemp industry alive and well?
Marijuana. The
Okay. Do you want to talk
marijuana
about
ins
that a little bit? Because it's the same
yeah.
plant, right?
Yeah, and it's just like this just little tiny number, 0.3% below is hemp. Anything above 0.3% is marijuana. And you can get the same exact effect. Everybody calls it fake weed, hemp is fake weed. That is not that is not true. It can provide the same amount of medicinal as you would, going into a dispensary. Everybody's talks when they wrote the farm bill, it left hemp um, unregulated. Those of us that are in the hemp world, we want regulation. We want the rules to be made that 21. making sure that everything's tested, that everything that we have in our shop, we know for sure, even if we don't make it ourselves, but it comes from the company, that we know it's safe. There is regulation within our own industry, but marijuana wants you to think that we're not safe and you can only get it, and they have issues themselves. They've had a lot of recall products that they've had to recall, but whether it be hemp or marijuana, it's never killed anyone. It might make you feel like you want to die sometimes if you take too much, but other than that, it's just the marijuana industry wants to do away with it. And other industries like paper, uh, it 1 acre of hemp can grow as much paper or provide as much paper as 4 acres of trees. Hemp only takes 4 months. It takes 5 to 14 years for trees to
Did
grow.
you hear that,
So
friends? Did you hear that? We can save our trees, you know?
yeah, and
Wow, it's pretty amazing.
and the hemp can remediate the soil. A lot of these places that have toxic soils, they'll, especially like in Ukraine, in that area, they planted hemp to help clean the soil.
Okay.
So I mean, it used to back in the day, in the I think 1800s and before, they used to it was mandatory that they grew a acre of hemp. They
Wow.
paid their taxes with hemp. They did all this. Actually, my husband, we just got a $10 bill from the 1914 that had hemp on the back.
No
Hemp
kidding.
was on the back of the bill was a hemp field. Uh, but yeah, that plant provides so much. And unlike my sweatshirt I have on, just made from hemp.
Yeah, you
You
had on
know,
some pretty nice hemp sneakers last
yeah,
weekend when I saw you. And
yeah,
I think it's pretty amazing that my entire life, like I knew hemp existed. I never researched it. It's kind of one of those things you don't know enough about it. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's like, oh, it's all natural. I should buy this, and wear this. But what would you say as a veteran, both you and your husband, has been your greatest stigma being in business, doing what you're doing, advocating for the hemp industry? What has been the greatest stigma? And I'm referring to veteran, other veterans.
I don't think I haven't really uh, ran into too much stigmas. He's talking about hemp or as being um, a veteran self. Um, because I know when John has his own stigma. As soon as you say PTSD, they always think that he's disgruntled or he's angry or whatever. We've had instances where, if they knew he had PTSD, they would have a police officer in the room somewhere because they think he was going to get disgruntled or whatever. Um, but as far as, I'm I'm not sure.
And that's okay. That's okay. I know that sometimes we're faced with challenges and it's really pouring there. I can hear it sizzling.
Yeah.
We're faced with challenges from individuals, whether it be from our own communities, outside our communities, there's judgment and so
Hmm.
on. And as your friend, what I'll say here today is this: don't judge a book by its cover. Get to know people, understand the missions, understand before you speak. And I'll also say that I think it's pretty awesome what you guys are doing. And as far as PTSD is concerned, I'm also here to say that anybody can have PTSD.
Oh, yeah.
And those are some of the stigmas we do try to break over at our nonprofit, breakstigmas.com, both myself and 420 Chief, which is we need to stop that. We need to stop putting veterans into a box, a checkoff box. Oh, they have PTSD, they're unstable. Well, guess what? A lot of people can be unstable. Um, just because you're a veteran doesn't mean you have
Oh, yeah.
PTSD,
And
period.
I think a lot of people think that though. It's like, you're a veteran, you must have PTSD or whatever.
Correct.
And then it's like even within your own veteran world, sometimes it's like, you're knocking heads because, your situation was worse or whatever. And it seems like it's
Mhm.
like a pissing match on who had the
Yeah, combat
better
versus
yeah,
non-combat.
yeah. And it's like we find that within our own VFW sometimes it's like, they don't understand some issues. But and I do see the point sometimes combat versus non-combat. Like I wasn't a non-combat, which I don't sometimes I feel that, when versus what John went through. You know, the only thing I can say that I was subjected to downsizing was cold.
You're
You know, when the shit that was bomb we went members and just seeing that those people probably went through and knowing they legitimately have PTSD from what, and so just knowing that um, you know, whether you're in the military doesn't mean what you doesn't negate, you know, your service. Respect for those that went through you know, actual wartime. I don't, you know,
yeah.
their circumstances more um, understandable why they have their issues
Mhm.
than maybe, you know, what I have.
Yeah. I know you went inside because of the rain and the sizzling that we hear, but your audio and Wi-Fi is not as stable as it was outside. Go figure.
Okay, let me go
Just
back
wanted you to
out.
know that I can hear you. I can hear you with a little few interruptions. I heard you. Your video, however, is a little frozen at times. I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
I so appreciate you taking the time. To be here with us today. You're providing so much information, whether it be somebody who's looking for information on alternative healing therapies, whether it be your veteran experience as a female. Like I said, Sunny hasn't had too many females say, "Hey, I'd like to share my story." And I'll always go back to share your story. Your stories
Mhm.
are so important. It empowers others to want to come forward and share theirs. Sometimes it's words of encouragement, sometimes it's finding your way. Um, so, as I close us out today, what would you like to leave our viewers with as a closing thought?
Just you know, everyone has their path. You know, just sometimes it comes easier to others. Just don't be afraid to search it out. You know, take that phone.
Absolutely. Living a life of fear, guys, is nowhere to grow. That's what I'll tell you. You'll stay stagnant there. Fear is very quick to set in life's challenging moments. But if you fight and push through, anything can be accomplished. Like I said, full steam ahead. And sometimes we have to jump those hurdles, and sometimes we have to ask for help. And it's okay to not be okay. It's
Uh,
also okay to go through things and say, hey, I need a little support. Reach out to your friends, reach out to your support. And if you are yourself a veteran, you'd like to come on the podcast to share your story, whatever story that is, please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you and get your story out there. That is what this podcast is mostly focused on here, veteran interviews. And get familiarized with the mission uniting veterans across the nation, which are Sunny Side of Freedom meetups for our veterans. For those that participate in my weekly Fridays, live chats with other veterans, getting to know each other until we can get to meet each other in person. And you, my friend, I look forward to having at one of my meetups. Both you and John, of course, are welcome.
no, definitely.
I cannot wait for that. Hopefully, this upcoming spring, Sunny will host another meetup in the state of Missouri, and I would love to have you both there. In the meantime, my friends, this is the end of this episode here with Kara, one of our Navy veterans. Please reach out with any questions. Feel free to leave comments down below. If you have any questions about 1000 Ripples or the hemp company in Rosebud, Missouri, please reach out
Look
to
us
me, reach out to them.
look us up under a Slap Happy Emporium.
Slap Happy Emporium.
Yep.
That's where you'll find them in Rosebud, Missouri. So much more than what you think it is, to be
Yep.
quite honest. I've been there and I can attest to that. It was a pleasure meeting you in person last weekend and spending time with you and John. And I look forward to seeing and doing much more in the
Uh,
future with you.
we look forward to it too.
Yeah, and I thank you, Kara. I really do. So much love and so much respect for you, for your service, for what you're currently doing now. You're still serving your greater community. So thank you. And thank you for joining us today. I appreciate y'all. As Sunny always says before I close out, stay sunny, stay spicy, always make it count, lead in love, and lead the way. Be the difference you want to see. Much love, fam, and we'll see you again. Bye bye. Thank you, Kara. I appreciate
Bye
you.
bye.